It's the 1st of June, meaning the monthly candle has just closed, and what we do on this channel every single month on the 1st, we look at the charts on a monthly basis, looking at what has just happened in the past month to give us a glance and an indication of what lies ahead for the month, but also for the next multiple months. What's up guys, Dirk here from intelligentcryptocurrency.com. If you are new to the channel, subscribe. Click the notification bell after you click subscribe, and then you can get updates of all my future videos. And if you want me to send you an email every time I upload a new piece of content so you don't miss a future video, then all you need to do is click the first link in the description, enter your name and email there, you get on my email list, and I will notify you via email every time I upload a new video. So let's start out by looking at the facts, and the month of May was a huge negative month. It was almost the largest. In fact, according to this data table, the month of November 2018, that was the capitulation of the bear market, that was the largest negative month. But we're pretty close to that. That was 36.57. This is negative 35.31%. So pretty much on par with one of the worst months in performance for Bitcoin's history. Now, that is not necessarily a bad thing. And since we've had this flush out, I think there is potential for a higher high. And this is something that I already made a video about in April. So I've referenced this video a couple times already, because I published this on April 17th, saying the possibility of a double top cycle and Bitcoin crash in May 2021. I'll just play the intro here for you for a second. In this video, we are going to be looking at the potential of Bitcoin creating a double top to end this cycle. And what I mean by that is the potential of a top sometime in the next few weeks, followed by a crash or a correction, followed by a higher high to complete the bull run at the end of the cycle. So far that is exactly what happened, and the reason why I made that is because the month of May, besides the fact that there's the idiom and the saying hey, sell in May and go away, traditionally it tends to be a time of downside also in stocks and equity markets and things like that for the month of May. But also, we were 12 months out from the halving of May 2020, so that's why I thought there was a possibility that we were mimicking the 2013 cycle, meaning that we could see a top in April or May. Like I said in the video, I'll link to it up here if you haven't seen it yet, and in the description below. Basically, we could see a local top followed by a 50, 60, 70, 80% correction, even like we saw in 2013, followed by a few months of sideways, and then a new final blow off top towards the end of the year. So a double peak cycle like what happened in 2013, which if that plays out again, that would take us to new all-time highs, and we would get the parabolic blow off top towards the end of the year, just like we saw in 2013. And the reason why this is so tricky is obviously because a lot of people are thinking, hey, the bull run is over now, and a 50, 60, 70% correction, we've already seen more than 50% in Bitcoin. That kind of correction basically destroys sentiment. It wipes out tons of leverage positions. Pretty much everyone who had a leverage position open, even from in the low 30,000s with the liquidation level there, they got liquidated. So it basically reset the entire market. There's a huge amount of fear in the market. And this is exactly the kind of sentiment and scenario that would cause a lot of the retail investors and the late investors who started hopping on when Bitcoin was 50, 60,000 right at the top there. Once it dropped by that 50% or more, it would cause a lot of them to get scared, panic sell, and then, always the patient investors end up winning, because the market always transfers money from the impatient to the patient. The people who manage their risk, who put in what they can afford to lose, who are willing to hold long term, doesn't matter if it takes a year or 5 years or 10 years, they invest with a long term horizon and they can withstand this volatility. Whereas the newbies who overinvest, they buy the top, they FOMO buy, they don't understand what they're investing in, they don't have a long term vision, they buy in with a kind of get rich quick mindset. Those are the people that when it drops 50, 60, 70%, they liquidate, they panic sell, they lose their money, they get out of the market. The market goes sideways, everybody thinks they made a right decision, and then at the end of the year, it could go way higher, and those same people that sold now or that got liquidated, those are going to be the ones that are going to be buying in when Bitcoin is 100K, 150K, maybe even 200K, to repeat the exact same process once again. So you have to understand these cycles. It is really important. So going back to here, the stats and the data and the monthly returns, you can see, so we had a negative May. That's really not a big deal still. Okay, it's nothing out of the unordinary. It was unpleasant, of course, but it is part of the larger picture. It wasn't completely unexpected like you've just seen with the video that I made about it. So what we can also do on this chart, and I will link to this below so you can check it out for yourself, you can also check out the quarterly returns. So for Q2, you can see for the most part it has been a green quarter, and the two times in 2018 and 2013 when it was red, it was only slightly negative with 3.97% and 7.71%. So we do still have the entire month of June for a potential recovery for Q2 to end on a much smaller negative note, or potentially even become green. A lot can happen in 30 days. So you can see here in Q3, there's a lot more red quarters here, but again, it's about 50-50 red and green. So the odds favor a little bit more downside, but again, 50-50 here compared to better odds for green in Q2. And Q4, even though there were 3 red months here, the green months were absolutely huge. You can see here, 2013, 479%, 81%, 58%, 215%, 168%. So that is what I'm still expecting for this year. I'm expecting, we'll get into that a little bit when we look at the charts and the prediction for this month ahead, but I'm expecting potentially a few months of sideways, but then Q4, October, November, December, I think there's a good chance that that is going to be very green and very positive, and that takes us to new highs. So hopefully that is going to be the case. Alright, so quickly coming back to last month's prediction that I made on May the 1st. So basically what I was saying is that the potential for Bitcoin was to be able to go to $80,000 and for Ethereum to go to about $4,200. So let's look at Bitcoin first, what I said last month. So you can see over here, we have this doji. So again, there's two options, right? Since we had this, sometimes they happen twice in a row. So what this means is that we could still see a retest of these lows, maybe not as low, maybe 50,000, I would guess. So there is possibility for downside this month, but that is not a requirement or a guarantee. It could also go straight up from here. So let's look at the monthly chart for Bitcoin, what happened, and you can see we had this huge red down month. So after this doji candle, there were basically two options. If we would have gotten more bullish news, maybe some corporations announced they bought Bitcoin, I think there would have been potential for this to go straight up into the $70,000 or $80,000 range. But instead we didn't. We got this distribution, we got the sell-off, and we hit just under $30,000. I think the low is 29,563 over here on Bitfinex. And then we closed the month at 37,280. So that's roughly where we are right now. Since it is the first, we had this monthly candle close. So the question is where to from here. And so usually after a big down candle like this, there's a couple options. Personally, like I said, I'm leaning towards a few months of sideways trading, where that means, it could go a little bit lower, a little bit higher, a little bit sideways in general, but basically just getting rid of that huge sell-off, the sentiment recovering a bit of accumulation happening. And I'd be expecting, compared to 2013, there we only started to rally really in October. So again, I'd expect maybe something similar where we trade sideways in a range potentially until September or October, and then towards Q4 of the year, hopefully that's when we start to get a big push and a rally to new highs. Now in the short term this month, I mean, we could have a super tiny month that doesn't really do anything, that goes between 30 and 40k. We could have a higher month that goes back up to 45k. We could retest the lows here of 30k, and there is still even a possibility for it to at some point still retest the previous high of 2017, right, which was just under $20,000. Now I don't think that's very likely, but it is not impossible, and that might not happen right away. It might not happen this month. We might see that maybe in July or in August only, but at the same time we might not get it at all. The reason why I'm saying this is because you have to consider the possibility that that could happen. So you have to take that into account for your risk management, meaning that you probably shouldn't be trading any leverage. I'm really not a fan of it at all in any capacity. No loans, no leverage trading, because then you can get liquidated. A lot of people got liquidated on the sell-off. If you're holding spot, right, if you're holding the coins and you keep them in a wallet that you can control, sure, you get a drawdown and the value of your Bitcoin in US dollar value becomes whatever, 30, 40, 50, 60% less temporarily. But in the long term, if Bitcoin is in a larger picture bull market, which it has been since 2009, and considering that, you know, even if you had bought the $20,000 top, it went to $65,000 less than 4 years later. So imagine where we will be in the next 4 years, worst case, right? Imagine it doesn't go back up this year. Imagine 4 years from now, we might be at 200, 300, 500,000, who knows, right? So if you're holding those coins spot without liquidation risk, without leverage, that means even if it does drop to $20,000 temporarily, and you are prepared for that mentally and you're willing to hold it even if it drops there, maybe you're even willing to buy some more at those levels. Obviously, you need to make your own decisions, not financial advice. But if it were to do that and you're perfectly comfortable holding this for the long term, it doesn't matter if it drops to 20K, then ultimately you're in a much stronger position with your investment. If you're the kind of person like many of these new investors are, who don't understand the markets, they hop into Bitcoin at 60K and it drops to 40K or 30K and they get completely freaked out and scared and they panic sell and take the loss, right? Or even if they bought at 40K and they're kind of holding on now and it drops to 20K, they sell the very low before it rockets and goes up to 100 or 200K. You have to keep all these things in mind. Bitcoin is a very volatile asset and 20K would not be impossible. But again, it's not guaranteed that we get there. This might have also been the low, and we might not get below this previous low of just under 30,000 again. So here's a little bit of a bullish scenario that could happen and that I'm leaning towards. Hopefully we will see something like this, where, you know, a lot of people got so incredibly bearish. I know a lot of people personally also that were super bullish on crypto. They were like, hey, this bull run is going to be insane. It's going to continue going. We're going to see Ethereum at $10,000, maybe $15,000. We're going to see Bitcoin at $200,000 or $300,000. And after last month's sell-off, they're saying like, hey, the bull market is over. We're in a bear market. And that is the good sentiment for the bullish case, because if a lot of these super bullish people get shaken out and they sell, and they think the bull run is over and we're now at a bear market, that creates the perfect sentiment and climate for this to make a double top cycle where we go a lot higher towards the end of the year. And what if something like this plays out, where we had this giant sell-off, we have maybe a retest of the lows, something a small candle, and then the next 2 or 3 months we make the recovery, we get back to the 65K high, maybe in August or maybe in September, and then by the end of the year we hit maybe 120, 130, $40,000, something like that. You can see that would perfectly line up with the double top cycle, with the previous 18-month after halving cycle that we saw in 2017, and the 4-year cycle peaks, which happened in November 2013 and in December 2017. So towards the end of December, maybe early January, a peak for Bitcoin following this cycle would be completely plausible. Now, if it's going to happen or not, we will only know obviously at the end of the year, you know, January the 1st, 2022, we'll know how this had played out. But this is what I'm leaning towards, something like this. And sure, it could go a little bit lower and we could get a retest of this 20K, like I said, but this is the bullish scenario that I'm leaning towards, and hopefully we are going to get that, because if this happens for Bitcoin, it's going to be incredible for altcoins, because we still haven't yet had the blow of top for altcoins that I've been looking for to confirm an end to the cycle. A lot of these altcoins haven't yet gone to even their previous all-time highs, whereas Bitcoin and Ethereum have both done 3x their previous cycle highs. If we're looking at other coins, Bitcoin Cash, Ripple, Stellar Lumens, you know, even like Neo and ICX and ARK, all these coins, they haven't even reached the previous all-time high yet, let alone 2 or 3x that all-time high. But if this scenario happens in Bitcoin in the next 6 months, we could see that crazy blow of top in altcoins, and we could see 2 or 3x the all-time highs in those kind of altcoins. Alright, so now let's go and look at Ethereum before wrapping up this video. I know it's already getting a little bit on the long side, but I just wanted to cover Ethereum also, then just give a bit of a summary and a conclusion, and then we can wrap this up. So let's have a look at my ETH prediction from May the 1st. This was when Ethereum was trading at $2,800, just over $2,800, and we hadn't yet crossed the $3,000 level. So this is what I said. I think there's a good chance we're still going to see a lot higher in ETH prices. Keep in mind, in July, the ETH update, a very important one, is set to roll out, which would help with scaling issues and hopefully reducing fees too. So that would be really good for ETH. So I think there's still a lot more room to the upside for ETH. Now, whether or not that's just going to continue going, we are at record levels at this point. I mean, 7 monthly candles in a row without a red one, without much of a significant pullback at all, really, leaves us open to at any point having some sort of pullback. But based on the monthly candles, I think it's completely possible that we actually have another big green month in ETH. And if we do, I mean, it depends how crazy things go, but who knows, we might have another huge blow off up to $4,000. That might be a little bit on the high side, somewhere between $3,500 and $4,000 if we get that green monthly candle. If we do get downside, I think this previous top should be the maximum we could go. So we shouldn't get below $2,000 if there is a sell-off, and that would be a pretty big sell-off from 2,800. Alright, so here is the monthly candle of Ethereum, what that looks like, and wow, what a range. This is the largest range, high and low within a month in Ethereum like ever. So I said, based on basically the logic of Bitcoin having done a 3x of the previous all-time high, that Ethereum is lagging and we should see at least $4,200 for it to match that. And Ethereum hit a high of 43.84. So that was pretty close in terms of it matching Bitcoin's percentage gain of the previous all-time high, and it did that. And then I said, if we get a sell-off on the downside, I'd expect it to not really go much lower than $2,000. It did go slightly below that. It went to 1728. So on both ends, the 4,200, it overshot it a little bit as a target, and on the low end, the 2,000 as support, it undershot it a little bit to 1728. But in general, that prediction was pretty accurate for last month. Now, what we have here is just this huge kind of doji candle that in the same way that we actually had in April on Bitcoin. And I think at this point, it's pretty difficult to say what this month is going to do. Like I said before, I think we can expect a few months of sideways action or consolidation, and potentially only start to see some sort of big upwards movement towards the end of the year, October, November, December. But with Ethereum, we have to keep in mind that in July, there is the expectation that the upgrade to the network is going to take place, the EIP 1559. And there's also talks that that might be delayed, which could be the case with anything programming. I mean, especially in Ethereum's history, there's been a lot of times when network upgrades have been delayed. So with Ethereum at this point in time, on a monthly basis, I think it's very hard for me to make a call here. Really, we could have a small month again. We could retest these lows. At some point, we could have a retest of 2,000. You know, we could go lower here. We could also start to slightly move up and not retest these lows and not, you know, maybe not come below 2,500 where it is, and just slowly start to move higher, and eventually towards the end of the year, potentially be over 5,000, maybe 6,000, maybe even that crazy $10,000 level that people have been calling for Ethereum to hit this cycle. I'm not super sure that Ethereum can hit $10,000 this cycle, but it's definitely not impossible because, I mean, we already hit $4,000, and if we really get the blow off where things go a lot higher and we see Bitcoin going to over $100,000, I can see Ethereum hitting 5, 6, 7, maybe 8. I don't know about 10. You know, it's also that psychological level. Maybe it'll hit it, maybe it won't. So that remains to be seen. But for the short term, I still expect, like I said earlier, sideways action for the next few months. That's kind of my expectation. Potentially a retest of these lows of the 2,000 if Bitcoin retests 30,000. Potentially maybe even a retest here of $1,400. That would be a little bit extreme. I don't know if we're going to get that. But again, like I said, it's not impossible. So that's why if you stay away from the leverage trading and you have no liquidation risk, and you stay within your money management, your capital allocation, and you're willing to hold Ethereum for the next 4, 5, maybe 10 years, then short-term drawdowns, even if Ethereum were to drop back down to 1500 or 1400, in the short term, it wouldn't make too much of a difference because you're prepared to hold that. You can't get liquidated. You don't need the money. You have the long-term vision. And even at that point, if you still have risk capital, you could say, well, I believe in Ethereum. The upgrades are coming. Pretty much most of the crypto space is built on it, and I think in the long run it's going to $10,000, $20,000, maybe even $30,000 or $40,000. And we're talking 5 to 10 years out. Obviously, that's a long time, but in that time period, a huge amount can change. Keep in mind, even if you had bought the top at 1420 in January 2018, right? Sure, you would have drawn down a lot, more than 90%. But if you would have held it for less than 4 years, that 1420, it would have 3x'd already to more than $4,200 last month, right? So again, assuming that that is going to continue because Ethereum will hopefully solve their issues and get more adopted by institutions and actually become scalable, and the fees will be affordable and all that kind of stuff. If that continues to grow, 4 years from now, who knows where Ethereum might be? We might be well over 10,000, maybe even over $20,000 per ETH. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed this update. I know it was a little bit longer, but I just wanted to get all my thoughts in there. Hopefully you appreciate that. If you do, smash the like button, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And of course, if you're not on my email list yet, first link in the description below. And guys, before we wrap this up and before you close this video, please do leave a comment with your thoughts. I'd love to hear, what do you think? Do you think the bull run is over? Are we entering a new bear market? Or do you think it's more likely that we're going to have a double top scenario where, like I said, we might trade sideways for another 2, 3, 4 months, and then towards the end of the year, October, November, December, we get a huge rally, huge blow off, we take us to new highs, and we get that blow off top that we've been looking for? Let me know in the comments. I really love to hear your thoughts. The more feedback we get from different opinions, the more we can kind of gauge sentiment, and it's just interesting to see. So guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, leave a comment, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.